You are 34 years old, married, with a 6-year-old daughter asleep in the next room. You wash millions of dollars for the most dangerous people in the city, entirely from your kitchen table. The glowing screen shows a string of shell companies spanning from Delaware to the Cayman Islands. A digital empire built on blood, sanitized through silent keystrokes. You tell yourself it is just math, just moving numbers from one column to another. But the sharp smell of fear always lingers in the back of your throat. A black SUV idles across the street, its headlights switched off. They never call before they arrive. You hold your breath, waiting for the sound of car doors opening. Every passing second feels like a physical weight pressing against your chest. The SUV slowly rolls away, vanishing into the damp fog of the neighborhood. The phantom threat recedes, leaving behind a profound, hollow silence. You return to the table, opening the second encrypted drive. The numbers on this one require an explanation that you do not have. $3 million vanished in transit between a dummy corporation in Miami and a shell account in Panama. The cartel will notice the missing funds by morning. A logical mind tries to find the error, tracing back through the wire transfers, looking for a misplaced decimal. A survivor's mind starts planning an exit strategy. The organization does not believe in glitches, banks holding funds, or routing delays. They only believe in loyalty and theft. You open a hidden file, a backdoor you coded 3 years ago just in case this exact moment ever arrived. It contains offshore routing numbers completely disconnected from the cartel. The system requires two-factor authentication, sending a text to a burner phone locked in a safe deposit box downtown, a box you cannot access until 9 a.m. Your phone vibrates against the wood of the table, not the secure laptop line but your personal cell phone. A voice on the other end, calm and heavily accented, asks if you are having trouble with the Miami transfer. They already know. You lie with perfect precision, explaining that a routing server in Nassau is experiencing maintenance downtime. The lie tastes like ash, but the voice accepts it and hangs up. The clock on the wall ticks loudly, counting down the hours until morning. You have exactly 6 hours to find $3 million, or disappear forever. You walk into your daughter's bedroom, watching her chest rise and fall under a pink blanket. The innocent quiet of the room feels like a cruel mockery of the world you built outside it. The men who employ you do not harm children directly. They simply burn the house down, regardless of who is sleeping inside. You pull a heavy canvas duffel bag from the back of the hallway closet. Inside are 2 passports, a brick of banded cash, and a loaded pistol. You stare at the bag, realizing that opening it means crossing a line you can never step back over. The accountant dies tonight. Someone else has to survive the morning. You drive to an all-night diner on the edge of the industrial district. The public Wi-Fi is terrible, which makes it perfect for bouncing a signal through 3 different continents. The financial world never actually sleeps. It just moves its operations to colder, darker server farms. At 4:12 a.m., trillions of dollars are quietly shuffling through underwater fiber optic cables. You open the terminal and ignore the grease stains on the table. Your fingers move across the keys with a mechanical, practiced rhythm. The missing $3 million didn't just vanish into thin air. Money has mass, momentum, and an undeniable digital footprint if you know where to look. A shell company in Miami had authorized the transfer at exactly midnight. The corporation exists only as a piece of paper in a dusty filing cabinet in a lawyer's office. A man known only as the auditor handles discrepancies for the organization. He is a ghost who leaves behind nothing but closed ledgers and open graves. You pull up the routing tables, searching for the exact millisecond the transaction was intercepted. A string of code hidden in the transaction metadata catches your eye. It is an elegant piece of malware, far too sophisticated for a street-level cartel enforcer. Someone on the inside, someone with high-level clearance, siphoned the funds. The realization hits you like a physical blow to the stomach. You are not the thief, but you are the perfect prepackaged scapegoat. The diner's fluorescent lights hum with a sickly yellow frequency. A lone truck driver sleeps in a booth 2 rows down, oblivious to the invisible war being fought on your screen. You run a trace on the malicious script, pushing your machine to its processing limits. The laptop fan whines loudly, struggling against the digital heat. The malware pings back to a server located in a jurisdiction that doesn't cooperate with anyone. They planned this theft for months, waiting for the largest quarterly transfer. You have $50 million of cartel money currently sitting in temporary escrow. If you freeze the accounts now, you create a panic. If you let them process, you lose all leverage. Survival dictates that you need collateral, something to trade when the men in black SUVs return. You highlight the remaining $50 million and prepare a diversionary protocol. It is a massive risk. Diverting the cartel's entire operational fund will instantly make you the most hunted man on the eastern seaboard. The waitress walks by. her heavy footsteps vibrating through the floorboards. She pours more bitter coffee into your mug without making eye contact. You press the execution key, watching the progress bar crawl across the screen. $50 million fractures into 1,000 tiny transactions, scattering like roaches in the light. The funds are now locked in a labyrinth of ghost accounts that only you can navigate. You just bought yourself a bargaining chip or signed your own death warrant. Dawn begins to break over the industrial park, painting the smog-filled sky in bruised shades of purple and gray. It is 6 a.m. You close the laptop and leave a $20 bill on the table. The bank opens in 3 hours, and you need that burner phone. You stand before the glass towers of the financial district at 8:55 a.m. The morning sun feels like a spotlight, exposing every flaw in your composure. This bank was built on the concept of absolute discretion. It is where the wealthy bury their secrets beneath 6 feet of reinforced concrete and biometric scanners. You adjust your tie, trying to breathe normally. Every person in a suit looks like an undercover agent or a cartel hitman waiting for the signal. The clerk is young, efficient, and entirely uninterested in your identity. To her, you are just another box number in a database of 1,000 anonymous accounts. You follow a silent security guard down a flight of stairs. The air grows colder and the silence becomes a physical weight against your ears. The vault door is a masterpiece of Swiss engineering. It takes 3 separate keys and a biometric scan to open a door that weighs more than a freight train. Inside the safe deposit room, thousands of stainless steel boxes stare back at you like the eyes of a dead machine. Somewhere in this grid is your survival. Box 742. You insert the key and turn it. The mechanical click sounds like a gunshot in the absolute quiet of the vault. You pull out the long metal tray. It feels heavier than you remembered, as if it's filled with lead instead of paper and plastic. Inside lies a nondescript black smartphone and a passport with a name you haven't used in a decade. These are the tools of a man who does not exist. Burner phones are designed to be forgotten, yet they carry the weight of every dangerous word ever spoken into them. This one has been silent for years. You power it on. The screen flickers to life, a small blue window in the darkness, waiting for the code that will unlock the ghost accounts. Suddenly, the phone vibrates in your hand. It isn't the authentication code. It's a call from a number that shouldn't know this device exists. You do not answer. You shove the phone and passport into your pocket and push the tray back into its tomb. The walk back up to the lobby feels 3 times as long. Every security guard you pass seems to be communicating through a hidden earpiece about your departure. A black sedan is idling at the curb outside. It looks exactly like the one that watched your house last night, but in this city, they all look the same. You push through the doors and dive into the crowd of morning commuters. You are a single drop of water in a river of gray suits and black umbrellas. Is it too late to turn back? The smart thing would be to walk to the police station, but the cartel has eyes there too. You head for the subway entrance, descending into the belly of the city, where the noise of the trains can hide the sound of your own heart. The burner phone vibrates again. You look at the screen. One text message. We know where she goes to school. The text message on the screen feels like a cold blade pressed against your spine. The train screeches into the station, a massive wall of rusted metal and sparks. You step into the car, hoping the moving steel will provide a momentary shield from the eyes of the city. Every passenger in the car is a potential threat, their faces hidden behind newspapers and screens. You find a corner and stare at your own reflection in the dark window. The school is 4 miles away, a red brick building surrounded by a chain-link fence. You calculate the traffic and the speed of the train, realization dawning that you are already too slow. St. Jude's Elementary has a security protocol, but you know better than anyone that money can bypass any lock. The school staff is underpaid and the gates are often left unlocked during recess. You tell yourself you can still fix this, that the $50 million you diverted is enough to buy their silence. It is a lie, and the weight of the phone in your pocket is proof. The train stops. You exit at 5th Street, running up the stairs toward the gray daylight of the surface. The city air is thick with the smell of exhaust and impending rain. You duck into a narrow alleyway, checking behind you for the black sedan that shouldn't be there. A man is standing at a news kiosk 50 yards away. He is watching you with a stillness that is entirely unnatural for a stranger on a busy street. The city is a machine that processes millions of lives every day without a second thought. To the system, you are just a discrepancy, a line of code that doesn't belong. You find a public library, a quiet cathedral of paper and dust. You need a secure connection to finalize the transfer and pull the money into the ghost accounts for good. The ghost accounts are your only shield. Without that leverage, you are just a dead man with a nice suit and an empty briefcase. You are not a thief. That is the mantra you repeat as you authorize the final diversion of funds. You are a father protecting his blood from the wolves you helped feed. The auditor has a reputation for finding the needle in a haystack and burning the entire barn to get to it. He doesn't just want the money back, he wants the world to see the cost of a discrepancy. You call your wife. It rings 5 times before going to voicemail, the cheerful recorded message sounding like a voice from a different life. You try her work number next. The line is busy, a simple busy signal that sounds like a flat line on a heart monitor. Outside the library, the black sedan is parked directly in front of the steps. The windows are tinted so dark they look like holes in reality. You notice a security camera mounted above the door, its red lens tracking your every move. The organization isn't just following you, they are documenting your panic for the final report. You finalize the money move. $50 million is now invisible, hidden in a digital vault that only opens with your heartbeat. The back door of the library is your last chance. You leave the laptop behind as a decoy and step out into the rain, the text message repeating in your mind like a funeral bell. The city's infrastructure is failing under the weight of the storm. Water surges through the sewers, a dark, hidden pressure building beneath the feet of millions of unsuspecting citizens. You realize that the $50 million you moved is no longer a bargaining chip. It is a weight tied to your ankles, dragging you and everyone you love into the depths. The auditor doesn't believe in coincidences or technical errors. He believes in the balance of the ledger, and currently, your life is the only thing left to balance the debt. You reach the perimeter of the school, the chain-link fence feeling like the bars of a cage you built yourself. The bell for recess is ringing, a high-pitched scream that cuts through the thunder. The schoolyard is empty, the children kept inside by the storm. This is not the schedule. They should be outside, and the silence is a scream you can't ignore. A janitor watches you through a basement window, his face a distorted mask of suspicion and boredom. To him, you are just a man in a ruined suit standing in the rain, a discrepancy in his daily routine. You enter the main lobby, the smell of floor wax and old paper triggering memories of a childhood that didn't involve death threats and wire transfers. The air here is thin, recycled, and heavy with the expectation of safety. The secretary is on the phone, her voice a calm murmur as she discusses budget cuts and PTA meetings. She doesn't look up as you approach, her world entirely detached from the violence closing in on your own. "I'm here for my daughter," you say, but the words feel fake, like a script written for a man who is still allowed to be a father. You can feel the auditor's gaze through the walls, calculating the time it takes for you to break. The hallway stretches out before you, a long, narrow throat of linoleum and locker doors. Every step you take toward her classroom feels like a step deeper into the auditor's mouth. Inside the classroom, 20 children are coloring in silence, their world limited to the edges of the paper and the selection of crayons. Your daughter is in the back, her head down, a discrepancy in the sea of vibrant primary colors. You enter the room, and the silence breaks. The teacher, a young woman with a kind face and tired eyes, looks at your wetsuit and knows something is wrong before you even speak. She sees you. Your daughter stands up, her small chair scraping against the floor like a record scratch. She doesn't smile. She sees the dread in your posture and mirrors it. The text message repeats in your head, a digital infection. They are not coming for you, they are already here, watching this reunion from 100 different angles. "We're going for a ride," you whisper, but the air in the room feels like it's being sucked out by a giant vacuum. You are taking her from a place of safety and bringing her into the blast radius of your own failure. You walk back through the lobby, the daughter's small backpack bouncing against her spine. The auditor is no longer a silhouette in the distance. The black sedan is now idling at the school's front entrance. "Where is Mommy?" she asks, and the question is a final audit of your life. You have no answer that doesn't involve a ledger of blood and a city that wants to swallow you whole. A man steps out of the black sedan. He doesn't have a weapon, but the way he holds his umbrella suggests a man who is used to controlling the elements. The audit is over. The balance has been struck, and the only question left is whether you are willing to pay the interest on the debt you've accumulated. You enter the back seat of the black sedan, the leather smelling of expensive chemicals and old citrus. Your daughter sits beside you, her backpack a bright yellow anchor in the dark interior. The door closes with a sound like a heavy vault ceiling. This specific model is armored to level B7, capable of stopping armor-piercing rounds and grenades. You wonder if your wife is already sitting in a similar car or if she is the reason this door was opened for you. The logic of the cartel is a circle. Everyone is a hostage to someone else. The car pulls away from the school curb, moving through the rain with a silent electric hum. Outside, the world is a smear of gray concrete and wet glass. The auditor sits in the front passenger seat, never turning around. He is a statue of gray wool and professional indifference, checking his watch every 90 seconds. Money in ghost accounts is like oxygen in a sinking submarine. It is the only thing keeping the pressure of the cartel from crushing your lungs. You pass through the luxury district where the buildings are made of glass and the people are made of lies. This was the world you thought you belonged to. The auditor finally speaks. He doesn't look back, but his voice fills the car like cold water. The accounts are frozen. We need the keys. You realize the illusion of leverage has vanished. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to collect a signature and then erase the signer. The car turns toward the docks, leaving the bright lights of the city behind. The road becomes uneven, the sound of the tires on wet gravel echoing in the silence. You remember a man you once worked with who tried to steal from the Cayman accounts. They found his shoes in a warehouse, but they never found the man. The industrial park is a graveyard of rusted shipping containers and broken glass. No one comes here after 6 p.m. except for the security patrols you pay to stay away. You feel the smartphone in your pocket, the only thing that proves you are still the smartest man in the room, or the most desperate. The car stops in front of a windowless concrete building. It is a data center, one of several you use to wash the cartel's digital sins. 5 minutes, the auditor says. He hands you a tablet. It's already logged into the root server, waiting for your final authentication. You look at your daughter through the tinted window. She is still asleep, a discrepancy in a world that requires total alertness to survive. The auditor stands next to you, his presence a physical threat. He doesn't need to speak. The silence is the ultimatum. You place your thumb on the scanner. For a second, the screen turns red, and your heart stops. Then, it turns green. The 50 million begins to return to the cartel. You've done well, the auditor says. It's the first time he's looked at you. His eyes are like the ice on a winter lake, beautiful but impossible to breathe under. The transfer finishes. The illusion of safety returns for a brief second, only to be shattered by the sound of a pistol being cocked. Your smartphone vibrates in your pocket, the haptic pulse feeling like an electric shock. The screen shows no number, only the word now. The house has stood for 40 years, witnessing 3 different families and a dozen renovations. It was never meant to be a fortress, and its walls feel as thin as paper today. You rush to your daughter's room, her door slightly ajar. The silence inside is more terrifying than any noise you could have imagined. She is asleep, her small chest rising and falling in a rhythm that feels alien to the chaos in your head. You realize you have precisely 4 minutes to move her before the perimeter is breached. You lift her, backpack and all, trying to remain as silent as the dust in the air. Every floorboard groan sounds like a gunshot to your heightened senses. The logical choice was to leave the money and run, but logic died the moment the first wire transfer cleared. You are a man who understands that in this world, poverty is its own kind of death sentence. A car idles at the curb outside, its engine a low, predatory growl. It is not the SUV from the cartel. This is something smaller, faster, and more personal. The auditor is a man of protocols, and protocol dictates that he must first verify the discrepancy before he settles it. He is currently walking up your driveway with a tablet in his hand and a silenced pistol in his waistband. Knock. The sound is soft, rhythmic, and incredibly polite. It is the sound of a man who knows he has already won. You do not breathe. You stand in the kitchen, clutching the counter so hard your knuckles would be white if they weren't already flat and featureless. Knock, knock. 2 more, slightly louder this time. The auditor doesn't like to be kept waiting, and his patience is a resource that is rapidly depleting. You wonder if you should have just taken the deal. $50 million is a lot of money, but it's not enough to buy back a life that's already been liquidated. A voice from outside, muffled by the wood, calls your name. It is polite, professional, and entirely devoid of mercy. You look at the back door, the only thing between you and the woods behind the house. You have to decide if you are a man who survives or a man who waits to be audited. You move. You don't run. You flow through the house like the money you used to manage, invisible and determined. You head for the garage where your survival is parked in a layer of dust. A shadow moves under the garage door, 2 dark boots silhouetted against the light from the street. The auditor isn't alone. He brought the cleanup crew. The neighborhood is a grid of quiet houses and well-kept lawns, a monument to a middle-class dream that you've turned into a hunting ground. No one is coming to help. They are all asleep, dreaming of a world where $3 million doesn't exist. The handle of the front door turns. It doesn't open, but the sound of the metal latch clicking is the sound of the world ending. You realize that the audit has finally arrived at your doorstep. You take a breath, tighten your grip on the child, and prepare to face the man who knows exactly how much your life is worth. The garage door groans as it opens, revealing the auditor standing in a halo of cold suburban mist. He looks less like a man and more like a mathematical certainty come to claim its due. The 50 million, the auditor says, his voice flat and devoid of malice. It was never yours to move, and it isn't mine to take back. You understand the subtext immediately. The money was a test, a digital lure to see which of the organization's financiers would prioritize survival over the ledger. The organization doesn't care about the loss of 50 million. They care about the stability of the system, and a man who can hide 50 million is a man who must be liquidated. The accounts are ready for transfer, you say, your voice cracking. I'll give you the keys. Just let her go. The auditor takes the phone, his realistic leather-gloved hand contrasting with your flat, graphic skin. He doesn't look at the screen. He already knows the code is correct. You watch the daughter run toward the street where a realistic woman in a beige coat is waiting. It is your wife, her face a mask of grief and relief. The organization had her the whole time. The texts, the threats, the ghost accounts. It was all a controlled environment designed to test your loyalty under pressure. You're a good accountant, the auditor notes, checking the transfer confirmation on his own device. But accountants shouldn't have families. It makes the math too complicated. The ledger is now balanced. 50 million returned, 1 discrepancy noted, and 1 exit strategy executed. The organization does not kill efficient workers. They simply reassign them to departments where their history cannot be found. You are 34 years old, and your name no longer exists in any database. You are a ghost moving numbers for other ghosts. The city begins to move around you, a massive machine of glass and steel. Millions of people are waking up, checking their balances, unaware of the hands that balance them. You open the laptop. The organization has already provided a new ledger, a new list of shell companies, and a new identity. The first transaction is for a shipping company in Singapore. It is worth $4 million. You move it with a single keystroke. Loyalty is not a choice. It is a calculation. You have weighed your life against the system, and the system has won. You see a billboard for a vacation package in the Maldives. It's a dream for people who still have names and bank accounts in their own name. The organization is an eternal machine, an aura of power that exists above the laws of men. You are a small, necessary part of its frictionless movement. You delete the final encrypted file from the previous night. The ledger is zeroed out. The discrepancy is erased. The audit is complete. You are zero. You are balanced. You are safe.